started just a minute here with head coach Bradley Carnell and director of academy and professional development John Scheer. We're going to start with opening statements from both Bradley and John, then we'll go to questions in the room, and if we have time, we'll take a couple on Zoom as well. That'll turn it over to you, Bradley.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good to see you again. Around 11 months ago, we stepped in here in a world of unknown, and I hope 11 months later, through the team's performance and collective effort, some of those questions have been answered. Before I hand it over to John here, I want to briefly discuss what I'm sure is going to be a common question regarding how off-season decisions are made and being handled. We've established an internal structure that brings together myself, John Scheer, Matt Radicek, Chris Siddebart, all working in close collaboration with our ownership group. This is a collective and collaborative effort in a process to remain prepared, deliberate, and focused on making the strongest possible decisions for the club. In many ways, new standards were set, records were broken, and redefined the blueprint of what has made the Union the most successful regular season team in all of MLS over the last 5 years. In some ways historical, in some ways by no means our end game. The drive for MLS Cup glory gets us up every single day as we start planning for the new season. And thank you to the players, staff, as well as our ownership group for the memorable season. Just a couple of pointers I'd like to highlight through the season. We brought back our second ever Supporter Shield trophy with a league high of 66 points, with a point increase of 29 points over 2024. The next best team was Chicago Fire with 23. We started 25 different players and had 29 unique starting lineups through the season. In the regular season, 18 different players scored and were part of our 57 goals. And 7 of them who scored their first MLS goals. A league franchise, or our 20-win mark, was our highest single season in franchise history, and no team has ever accumulated more season points than Philadelphia over these last 5 years, with 326. Some accolades to go with it: Jacob Glesnes and Kai Wagner being nominated for Best 11. And 3 of our players, Frankie Westfield, Quinn Sullivan, and Oluwetu Makanya, being included in the MLS U22 under 22. So, with that being said, we were able to maintain our identity and our proactive playing style by being the most dominant, aggressive team with our intensity. Number 1 for ball wins and counter press regains, as well as the best defense in the league with 14 clean sheets. 35 goals against, least shots on target against, and least shots against. A memorable season and something to set our standards on for going into 2026. With that, I'd like to hand it over to John.
Yeah, thanks for everybody for being here and for the coverage throughout the year. As Bradley mentioned, it's been an exciting year for the club, from the first team all the way down. And there's more clarity and energy than ever before. There's alignment across the sporting department and all the different leaders that we have. And in the interim, it's been a really positive experience working with Bradley, with Matt, with Chris Siddebart, and our other department heads as we approach what's going to be an exciting offseason and as we head into 2026. So thanks again for joining us here, and look forward to answering any questions we're able to.
You guys got some business done this morning. How important is it to get a player like that for your guys' game model, and how important do you see it to get a move like Ezekiel done so early in the calendar?
Yeah, I think by being proactive in the market is always a sign of intent, especially coming off of a successful season where we look to continue to maintain those standards like I just spoke about. Ezekiel had been spoken about and been in the pipeline for quite some time now. And he really suits and fits our style of play. He's very aggressive, very direct, runs very vertical in transition, and I kind of, with our game model intact, shows exactly what type of striker we were looking for, just to complement, Ty and Bruno at this stage.
With someone who's still raw, like Ezekiel, how do you, from a talent perspective, identify what exactly you're looking for by scouting a forward like that, knowing that strikers are obviously judged by goals. He's still young, so doesn't have like a massive track record behind him yet. So what about him stood out when you guys were scouting him?
Yeah, just his tools, right? So, we always speak about tools within the game model, and he had a really good skill set of how he put teams under pressure without the ball, and how he got himself into chances with the ball, and his willingness to run without it in possession and be an option in the attacking transitions. So, and I think if you look at our composition of strikers over the last season, there was a unique something special about each one of them, and we each have our own like a radar when we do our scouting, and you can see Bruno offers X, then Mika offers Y, then Ty offers Z. Like it's just a unique skill set, and when we needed to pull out a different toolbox, when we were looking into a game for the next opponent, during a game to make an impact sub, everyone played a role.
For Mika,
those discussions are ongoing, and we'll announce anything in due course.
would you like to have him back if he wants to come back?
Yeah, listen, I think it's two parties, two sides to the situation, right? And we are currently in those negotiations, and Mika was one of the nicest teammates you could ever imagine, and we were and have had a good working relationship, so we'll see what happens over the next due course.
For John, you talked about continuity. I'm curious your thoughts on Ryan Richter on the second team and first season manager for you too, and what was it like working with him and how he fit in with both of you?
Yeah, look, I think it was a fantastic season for Union 2. Broke the points record for what we've had over the last few years, and I think we're a manufacturing plant for not only players but staff as well. And Ryan has a lot of potential and has shown his leadership skills in his first year as a head coach at the professional level, and how he managed the players and how he managed the staff was commendable, and there's also room for improvement as it relates to the integration and the game model. Bradley's been excellent, and his staff at making sure that our academy coaches and Union 2 staff are really clear in terms of roles and responsibilities on the pitch, and we look forward to taking the next step here. But if you look at the alignment and the communication from the first team staff all the way through, it's something I think we're proud of and looking to build upon.
I think Ryan's had the most difficult job because it's always, because of our age curve is so young, and there's always guys in our roster, then we send them down, and it's on the weekend, it's a Friday, it's a Saturday, it's training, so he's always been quite kind of on call with his players, and credit to him to get the performance that he did with the limited time of training at times. I would say incredible job done.
Then, Bradley, we talked about Houston, about the you had mentioned about the management plan with Andrew, Rick, Andre, Blake, kind of moving forward.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts about this season then with the increased games with CONCACAF Champions Cup next year? Do you see maybe Andrew specifically getting a little bit more opportunities with the increasement of games?
Yeah, I think that's natural, and I think if you have a look at our cadence of how we've rotated this season, not just with the goalkeeper department, I think it's been a natural progression, and sometimes it was due to Andre's travel, maybe sometimes some physical aspects going on, but for Andrew to get 14 games and the 6 clean sheets to go along with it, to play a big part in this historical season in many ways, kind of gives us a precursor to what it could look like. But Andre knows exactly what he needs to do. It's a big year coming up for him as well. He's immense in the locker room, his leadership, his quality on and off the field. There's a big playoff game he's got in March as well, and with their quest for the World Cup. So, there's a lot on the line for everybody. But I think we showed a lot of what we can do in this season with all the players we've used.
And John, final question for me. I was looking at the announcement with Aldo. Is he a DP or is he a U22, or has that not been announced yet?
Yeah, we have until roster compliance in February to make those final roster designations. So we're going to take our time and evaluate all what's best for us in our situation. But we have some time still to decide as it relates to this.
Thank you.
Jose?
To the theme of continuity and staff, is the entire bench staff coming back for next year, or is there some movement to be announced yet in terms of coaches that would join you?
No. Yeah, I think everyone did a great job, and I think everyone's hungry, and I think we have an alignment within our group between all staffs, first team, second team, academy, that from my side, nothing there to report.
And to follow up on Ezekiel's signing, with the shift of the calendar year to the league year, et cetera, is his contract through 2028? Is that through half of the season? Is it through the entire calendar year? How does that working, or is it, opening it up to your explanation on how that might work for this deal?
Yeah, I think what the contract date through has been reported. This is something that we're working through in terms of all of our signings and trying to navigate the new landscape of MLS and what the next year and beyond will look like. So that's something that's ongoing and it's active in our discussions with our leadership team.
In terms of the forward depth, Ty, I think, is coming up into his final option year. Traditionally, guys at age 28 haven't always gotten that extra contract here under previous regimes. Is he a guy that you see long-term still being with the club? Is an extension or a new deal something that is a priority coming up?
Yeah, we're planning with Ty going forward into the new season. And hopefully we have with the amount of games that we have, we're going to have the added competition, the added depth. And I believe that always brings out the best in our strikers. So, we're playing with Ty right now.
And in terms of kind of the depth at the number 10 position, I wonder, I guess, to ask both of the Sullivan questions. Yeah. You've talked about Kevin and growing. He was up to 440 minutes in all competitions this year for the first team. What are your reasonable expectations for him for next year? And how, given that Quinn has the injury, how do you factor him into the depth chart as you guys try and fill that, try and maybe augment that position?
Yeah, I'd hope we surpass the 400 minutes again with Kevin. We went from 8 to 440, which is quite the progression in anybody's language, in any team. So we'll see how that all goes in this offseason now. Kevin has another assessment at Man City now from the 8th to the 18th of December. And he'll be gone, which does, it's incredible what it does for a human being when you go over and experience what's on the other side and you bring that all back, and then you grow one more step in your development, right? So this is all, we're excited for preseason. And with regards to Quinn, we know it's a long-term thing, and hopefully through the summer we can start getting him back and welcoming him back to our training environment. But just seeing him and his energy in and around the annex, in the gym this morning, even now, when everyone's shut down and he's around and working through with Brad Papson, it's incredible just to see his energy and his excitement to come back and during this process. That does leave a little bit of a void in the 10 spot. If you think of Milan Iloski and Indiana Vasilev, what they've contributed to, and like we say, we've always wanted competition in those spots. So we're not shy of even observing what's out there on the market, but we're not going to rush into any decision right now, with knowing that the projection is hopefully for Kevin to surpass those 400 minutes and create added competition in that spot.
John, how do you view that with someone like Quinn, that he's obviously here long term, but not here short term, of that he's kind of in and not in the depth chart at the same time? How do you kind of hold something like that? And this club hasn't had a history of a lot of long-term injury absences to big-time players like this. How do you view something like that?
Yeah, and I think that's a credit to our medical department and high-performance department. But I would say that it's knowing that, what Quinn's mentality is like is certainly we're monitoring that over time here. But we also, this is professional sports, and we have to plan, and we have to have a deep roster, and there has to be a lot of competition. So Bradley mentioned that we'll always be looking from within first in terms of what our roster looks like, but we're going to continue to evaluate what the landscape looks like across MLS internationally and see how we can supplement our roster to make sure that we're in a position where we're prepared to deal with the amount of games we're headed into come 2026.
Been losses this year. All but one of them was to a playoff team, and 3 total goals were scored. I know there's a lot of positive, but how do you look at that sample size of games and maybe try to refine and kind of figure out what went wrong in those games to make 2026 an even better campaign?
I feel we've had a lot of standout games too. Just take away in Cincinnati, a man down, we get a result there. So we've had a couple of crazy games, the 3-3 with Miami, or the 2-1 where we unfortunately go down and lose against Miami. But incredible games that it was on a knife's edge, and when two good teams with contrasting styles come up against each other, it could be form on the day, it could be a set piece that Messi hits over the wall, it could be different scenarios that's not always in our control. So for sure we'll look back on that to be how we find ways to be a little bit more consistent with those types of things. But if you zoom in, yes, you lost maybe a game against a playoff opponent. You zoom out, expectations coming into 2025, to see what this team has achieved in a short amount of time gives me hope for next season, that we can, really get those tight, edgy games over the line. And even if you think about the New York City game, just the way we rallied at the end, the way we created chances, the way we just pushed and fought, and it just wasn't our day. So, those are the things I'm proud about, because we got into the spots. They were there for us. We don't take them, unfortunately, and we bow out of the semifinal of the conference. So this is what keeps us getting up every morning to try and get better than we were yesterday. So I'm excited about the new season already. It's going to be a lot of competition, a lot of games, new experiences. A format that we've never experienced in the league here. Through the World Cup. So yeah, there's a lot of exciting things to look forward to.
Do you manage those expectations for 26? Because coming in externally, there wasn't a lot of expectation for this team to do anything. But now that you've kind of reset everything here, you have a trophy, you're in Champions League, Leagues Cup. Internally, how do you manage those expectations?
Yeah, I think the thing is not to come January think about December. I think it's, we have to manage a preseason, make sure we get the right amount of bodies through in there in camp, get players up to speed again, make sure we file out a few things that we've, seen a bit of area of opportunity for growth within our game model, and also where individuals can improve over time. So, when we built the fortress again here at Subaru Park, going unbeaten 16 out of 17 games in the regular season, there's a lot of optimism. But if you spoke to all the players, they would feel that there's been many moments of opportunity where we let ourselves down. So, and that's coming from the players' side, which is amazing, because they are hungry and eager and curious to grow and learn in an environment that they felt challenged with. And we challenged the players every single day. They competed every single day and got the results, for the most part. So, again, start with today, think about only tomorrow, and we go from there.
For John, where is Neil Scheer in terms of his development? Because I guess that becomes the big question with the roster, with all the games ahead. Having an extra center back already on the roster would obviously be beneficial. Where is he at in his development?
Yeah, look, we're happy with now how Neil's progressed the last couple of years. We're like all of our players. I think we're always looking at the balance between where they fall within the Union 2 setup and MLS Next Pro, and then how that translates into MLS. We're really high on the potential of Neil Pierre, but we're also going to make sure that he's in the best possible environment to reach and maximize that potential. So, I think you'll see here soon. We're still looking at other center back options, but Neil for the future is one we still have a lot of belief in, and we're looking forward to seeing what best environment to continue to develop him in will be.
Do one more in the room, and then we'll just back.
Bradley, in terms of, obviously the game model that you guys have is extremely effective over a long period, as the Shield kind of shows. Is one of those areas that you look to kind of add being maybe a little bit tactically different in moments? I know you guys did that from time to time when moments called for it, but especially with an expanded schedule, having maybe some different ways to win games that are not just, when a team is expecting what your game model is and tries to counter that as best they can. Yeah. Is that part of adding layers to this, do you think?
Yeah, I've been part of this game model ever since I've been a coach, pretty much. And I've never seen the progression and development I mean, obviously we're talking about with the ball now, right? Because you wouldn't ask that otherwise. So our game model is the transitional game model, proactive, collective, right? But if I were to tell you, from the opponent's half, us attacking in the opponent's half, we were 5th in possession throughout the league, and our expected goals, I thought over the majority of the season. And I don't like just talking XGs and what have you. At the end of the day, you have to score the goal, win the game. That's what we have to do. We won 20 out of 34, which says something. And we created a lot in terms of our game model. And I think with the added pieces like Milan and Indy and Quinn when he was firing, before the injury, there was a whole bunch of depth and sort of unpredictability in terms of our game model. So that's just unfortunate. But we created. If you think about the New York City game, we created way more than we conceded. And Matt Freese had himself a day. So when you get to that level of the season and that opponent, it's form on the day. And we've shown more times than not we've been victorious during the season. So, many positive things to look forward to.
And then just kind of as a big picture thing, to get back to where you guys started this conversation, this is for both of you. There's maybe a lot of perception from the outside as to how much one person influences a sporting direction at a club. And if that person is no longer here come January or whenever, what makes you confident that there are structures outside of one person in the collective that you talked about earlier? What makes you confident that that will still be able to survive even if there's a different person on top of that nominally? What makes you confident that that is still going to continue in the way that you guys express it?
Yeah, look, I respect the question, and I would say, having worked in the club for 7 years, I've seen the day-to-day and how that's evolved. And I think, this leadership team represents, one broad role from a sporting side, now divided into 3 different domains in a lot of regards. But every decision that's been made over the last, several years has been, a collaborative effort and multiple people involved. And we're a very data-driven club. I think that's been well documented. So I think we've done a really good job of empowering our people across different domains, and that's something that's not going to change. And we're not looking we're looking to improve. We're looking to take a step forward as a club and continuing the on-field success. However, there's a lot that's going to remain the same in terms of decision-making and what that process looks like across the board.
Switch over to Zoom. Jonathan Tannenwald.
Thank you, Nico. Good morning, gentlemen, and apologies that I couldn't be there in person today. Just a couple of questions of clarification, I think, as much as anything, to things that you've said so far already. There was some about Mikel we were both talking about earlier for a bit. Can you hear me all right? Looks like you might not be able to hear me.
You're good.
What is the desired outcome on the club side of those talks? Do you want him back? Because it seemed for a while like he was going to be gone.
Oh, you're talking about Mikel?
Yes, it seemed for a while like he was going to be gone, but does the club want him back? Is there a desired outcome with that?
Yeah, listen, there's no denying the fact that, Mika within the game model has a certain quality, right? So, I think one of that is family. What do his family want? What does Mika want? And what does the club want? And I think if all of those come together and find the best possible solution for player, family, and club, and that's why. And, Mika had a good end to the season. And showed exactly what made him so strong here over the years. So, I think it sparks a lot of interest. I think it sparks a lot of communication and collaboration to test the waters over there.
A couple of questions also for John, I think. There's this committee, understandably, of people who are making the decisions. But at the end of the day, for such time as Ernst is out, somebody has to put a signature on a contract when a player is signed. Who ultimately is that?
Yeah, as it relates to contracts, MLS plays that role in terms of the signature. But yes, as it relates to Ernst's signature and what needs to continue to be executed, Matt Radicek in the assistant sporting director role is taking that on.
And the last question I think I have for now, there have been numerous reports of a number on Ezekiel Alado's transfer fee of $4.5 million, and of course I have to do my job and ask if that's correct.
Yeah, I think it's that's accurate. It shows the ambition of our club and our ownership group. So we're looking forward to working with Ezekiel moving forward.
Karith?
Good morning, Bradley and John. I think JT answered most of my questions. So I guess my big question for you moving forward is just, Bradley, what have you learned in the course of this season, looking into next year? You came into a club knowing about it, but being a relative unknown. What have you amassed over these months, and what you're taking into, hopefully next year?
Yeah, it's a great question, Karith. Walking into a new environment, and you often get a feel of what the city is like, you get a feel of what the club is like, but you never know from the outside looking in. Once you enter these walls, you can just see what it is about the union that makes it special and so successful, right? John spoke about the collective and the collaborative effort here of everybody, and it starts with people, in my opinion, and whether that's been the players that are local, international. Think of a Kai Wagner who's been here multiple years now. You would assume he's from Philadelphia, and then you have the youngsters coming through the ranks like a Frankie and what have you. There's a certain edge and a drive and a determination and a quality about this group that speaks volumes for the development of the club and the development of people, staff, and players. So, in many ways, this made my job and the staff coming in here very streamlined and very easy to get to know exactly, all right, these are the standards that need to be met and aligned with the game model that, the union back in early January thought this is suitable for the way to move forward with us. So, but this has been an amazing journey for me as a coach. I've grown and I've learned a lot more through the players and the engagement and just the people here at the front office. So when there's support, alignment, collaboration, a lot can be achieved. And I think we've shown that over the course of the year that we, all pulling in the same direction.
Thanks, Bradley. And John, my question for you is something that you said that I just wanted you to touch on. You said that, obviously being a data-driven club, a lot of decisions are already, made as a group. But can you talk about just how much more time this puts on you guys, I guess, in the interim as you're making decisions and looking at contracts and players and stuff like that?
Yeah, look, I think it's our duty to continue to keep this train on the right track, and I think it's something that we were all involved in these conversations and processes to begin with, given how collaborative we need to be, quite frankly, as a club. We are a development club. We're always looking from within first, as I mentioned, for players and staff. So there's so much natural overlap already. But with that said, we've in this working group are open to taking on more responsibilities again to put the club first and make sure that we're headed in the right direction come 2026.
Great, thank you.
Jillian?
Thanks, Nico. Hi, Bradley. Hi, John.
Hi, Jillian.
Regarding Eddie Davis and Sal Levis, just can you share your thoughts on their development this year, and do you envision them getting more opportunities in 2026? And perhaps any other players that spent a lot of time with the second team that impressed you that may get opportunities?
Yeah, you've seen throughout the season, whether it was during the summer with Eddie and with Sal, they've been sprinkled in some minutes here and there. Eddie and Sal both got their opportunities and played big roles in some of the games this year already. So, the option, or we'll definitely be with them in preseason, and excited to see their development. At the end of year meetings I had with them both, we had very good discussions about pushing the standards, setting the level, and showing a level of consistency over time. With not just MLS Next Pro, but with our group. Obviously, we've had some departures, or we've announced some departures, and now there's opportunity to be had. So, but I've always spoken about performance, and I've always spoken about that opportunities will be had and will be given, regardless of age. I'm an advocate of youth. I think everybody knows that. I like to develop, and it fits our game model, and that's who we are as a club. Having said that, nothing for nothing. Players have to want to, and players have to empty the tank every single day. So yeah, they're very early in their development, but I've seen great strides, not just from the footballing, technical, tactical aspect. I've also seen great strides in the personality, in what it takes to be a pro, and I've seen a level of drive and determination, through the back end of the season now, that they want this a little bit more. So, which is great. That gives me a good platform for them. It's up to my staff and myself to create this platform for them to continue their individual development. But I'm excited to go with them into preseason, starting on the 10th, 11th of January. So, yeah.
And final question will go to Jonathan.
Thanks, Nico. You just asked answered half what I was going to ask, which is only about 6 weeks until the preseason starts. Are there plans yet for where you're going to go? Are you going to go back to Spain? Do we know yet?
We will go back to Spain. We'll leave on the 17th and have 2 or 3 scrimmages there. And then we'll head down to Clearwater once we've known our CONCACAF opponent. We'll have 2 games there. I think it's against Cincinnati and Montreal, and then we'll be ready for our CONCACAF opening match, 15th, 16th, 17th, somewhere around about there.
And one more question, I think for John. There's a lot of unknowns, obviously, with how long the current setup is going to last, what the outcome will be. Do you have any sense at this point of an expected timeline of how long this is going to go for before there's a resolution?
Yeah, no, I have no comments as it relates to an ongoing investigation that our club's collaborating with. So we're just focusing on day-to-day, Jonathan, and doing the best job that we can in terms of our decision-making, our process, and the path forward.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Bradley and John. Thank you guys for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.